What can you do to improve the job market for people like me, qualified, talented, educated U.S. citizens?
You know, it's such a question. I get it all the time. It's an amazing question. One of the things we're doing, we'll be taking our jobs back from China and Japan and all of these other places that have been ripping us for years. I've been talking about this for 10 years, 15 years. No politician sees it. We're bringing our jobs back here. We're bringing our manufacturing back here. One of the things, and I will tell you, it's probably maybe the question, other than the vets, maybe it's the question I get asked the most, okay? And that's people, young, beautiful, great people, they go to college, in many cases borrow a lot of money to get through college. They're so proud of themselves. They do well. They're good students. They work hard. They get out. They can't get a job. With Trump, you know, there's an expression, I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created. I tell you that. That's what you need.
Donald Trump's strategy is simple and it's obvious. Never get pinned down on the guts of an issue. Never promise anything and back it with specifics. And most important, never really answer a single question. Mostly because the voters and the media rarely, if ever, press him to do just that. You want more proof that he does it and everybody else does it too? Our guest is a former research analyst for the National Security Agency, former journalist, writer of Get the Truth. Former CIA officers teach you how to persuade anyone to tell all. Now vice president of editorial and partner in the firm QVerity, where they specialize in detecting deception and critical interviewing. Don Tennant joins us on the show. Don, thanks so much for being here, and I'm going to start right with that. Indeed, what we just saw was Donald Trump changing. That's what he does. Don't really answer the question. But isn't it fair to say that that's pretty much what politicians in America have been doing for decades?
Well, that's the problem, Ed. We typically say this is just politicians being politicians. This is just Trump being Trump. And we let him get away with it. In Trump's case, the way he's able to get away with it is he's very good at accompanying this evasion behavior, this failure to answer the question, with attack behavior. It makes it very easy for him to succeed in getting us to accept it and to buy off on it. And what we have to remember is that there's a reason why he's not answering the question. We call evasion a linguistic act of concealment. He is concealing something, and we don't do a good enough job of finding out what he's concealing.
Isn't it fair to say, and again, I'm going to play the devil's advocate on this because I've been doing interviews for 30 years. You've done many as well. But when you look at it, you mentioned attack. That to me says emotion. That gets people's bloods flowing. That gets them all riled up at this point. Isn't it that's what you try to do? Because if you don't quite have the answer, get the emotion pumping, get the blood moving, and that will make people not necessarily pay attention to the initial question in the first place.
That's exactly what it does. It distracts a person. If the attack is against a third party, then it takes, it takes the questioner down that route towards the third party. Sometimes the attack is against the questioner, him or herself, and that tends to get a lot of people to, or compels a lot of people to back off, because especially in Trump's case, you just don't want to be, on the other end of Donald Trump's wrath.
So is he just trying to hide then, as some would say, that he really doesn't know a lot about foreign policy, doesn't know a lot about American economic policy, doesn't know a lot about the laws of the country? And look, we'll get hammered for saying that out loud. The Trumpers will immediately call us haters. But is that really what it's fair to say that he is trying to cover up?
That's absolutely fair to say that. And we can say that, in QVerity, we can say that because the methodology we use to examine this sort of exchange is completely without bias. In other words, it doesn't matter what political party I belong to or how I feel about Donald Trump. What I look for are the behaviors that Trump exhibits in response to the question. And the behaviors are either there or they're not. In Trump's case, they're invariably there.
Now, as a former journalist, you and I are going to talk here for a moment as two who've done this for a long time. The one thing that always catches me and that I was taught as a journalist, ask a question, ask it directly, demand the answer. Is it not fair to say that a lot of the mainstream media does not press Donald Trump, or anybody for that matter? They let them slide. And if you keep getting the same answer back and forth, shouldn't you as a journalist then say, well, Mr. Smith, you didn't answer my question, so I'm going to move on to the next? Isn't it fair to say that that's what you've got to do, and that's not being done?
It's extremely fair to say that. It's what you have to do. It is not being done. And the reason it's not being done in Trump's case, I believe, is that there's an expectation that he's not going to answer the question. All right, it's sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy. So we're not surprised. So what we do as journalists, or too many of us, we tend to cling on to whatever he throws at us. You know, if he throws us a bone, we'll cling on to that and we'll go down whatever tangent he takes us.
Is it not fair to say, though, that when the journalist says that and you don't get an answer, then what happens is people like Donald Trump or others will come back and say, the media didn't treat me fairly. You don't ask others this way. You don't go after other people like this. That, again, speaks to what's gone on in the media here. You got to play to the ratings, Don.
Well, unfortunately, that's the case. I mean, you know that and I know that, but, you know, it's unfortunate. And the other thing is, you know, anyone can call himself a journalist, right? We have citizen journalists now. We have a lot of people asking questions who maybe aren't the best questioners in a given situation. So, you know, it makes it difficult.
Do you agree with those people who say that maybe the media is running Donald Trump's campaign for him unwillingly?
Well, no, I don't agree with that. I think Trump is running his own campaign. I mean, I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He's clearly very intentionally avoiding answering any policy question, I believe, because he has not formulated any particular policy on a lot of these issues.
And he is in charge is the one thing that really comes through. We're all out of time, unfortunately. Don, we're going to have you back again because we're going to look at all the candidates as we head down the road. This is fascinating. We appreciate your time. Thank you. Let's ask you, do you feel that maybe all the candidates are not being asked questions fairly? Tell us what you think. We'll talk about it here on The Hard Line.